What is up, Retro Maniacs? Welcome to the Retro Card Chat Podcast. My name is Mike, and I am from Mike's Retro Trading Cards. And, you know, I'm pretty much the Captain America of this podcast. We all agree on that. No, I feel like it's my duty to protect my fellow co-hosts. And once again, this week, reiterate that these two guys had nothing to do with it. They don't even own a drone. They don't have their drone pilot's license. It is not them. I promise you, it is not them. They are, of course, Joe Day and EP Erica. How you doing, boys?
Yeah, I don't know the distance of those drones, but I'll tell you this, or like how far you need to be or how close you need to be to operate them. But if you need to be anywhere near New Jersey, hard pass. Am I right? Second worst state ever after Ohio. Are we all in agreement there?
Yeah, probably.
I mean,
New Jersey's kind of hit and miss.
Yeah, well,
it's got some coastal areas, right? So
we made it out alive after the National in Atlantic City, so that's we're counting our lucky stars on that one. If you're Captain America, I'm clearly Iron Man. I live in a semi-affluent neighborhood. EP, I don't know what's Jimmy Olsen. I guess that's the wrong. That's DC. Yeah. So that's not helpful.
Yeah,
let us know in the comments. Who is EP? I'm clearly Captain America. Joe is clearly Iron Man / Tony Stark.
Yeah,
but we don't know who EP is. Let us know who you think EP is in the comments, and we'll let everybody know next week.
I'm going to throw out a suggestion, probably like Hawkeye from the lame comic book Hawkeye, where he wore purple and didn't really have any superpowers, and everyone kind of didn't like him. I'm thinking Hawkeye, probably. EP, your thoughts?
I'm okay with that. He's a projectile character, so yeah, that's fine. Whatever.
Black Widow, maybe Black Widow.
Yeah, whatever everybody says. That's. I'll take on the moniker. I'm okay with that. And
let us know
down in the comments. Let us know. Let us know what you think.
How's it going, boys? What is new and exciting?
Well, I was just going to say, on the drone thing, I was at a office Christmas party yesterday, and there was one guy who said he got one of the Nighthawk
Sick and Light,
like the modems or whatever that can handle 300 different devices. It's like, whoa, dude, are you the one that's flying those drones over New Jersey with your giant modem? He did not confirm or deny. So, I mean, he definitely is.
Currently, there have been some over Pennsylvania, too.
Yeah, Lehigh County, I believe, right?
So, I know I was talking to a guy that's in Reading, Pennsylvania, and he said they were all over down there. So, I haven't seen them here yet, but, boy, I don't know what they could ever be.
If they've got lights on them and blinking lights, they're not being stealthy. They're not trying to hide from you. There's nothing to worry about.
By the way, listening to some of the people from New Jersey talk about these drones, they talk about it in such a New Jersey way, don't they? I mean, it's fantastic. So
Joe with a lot of New Jersey hate today. I apologize. I don't have a problem.
If you're from New Jersey, I apologize too.
Leave a message in the comments for Joe.
If you're from New Jersey, all seriousness, I apologize. I apologize that you have to live in New Jersey. Wow. So there's that.
Drive by left and right.
Drive by on New Jersey. No, you are well ahead of Ohio. So take that as you will. You know,
although Joe's from Pittsburgh, which is basically the Ohio part of Pennsylvania. So,
then what are you guys? Kentucky? Alabama?
They check out. That checks out, actually.
Yeah, it's not much different, I'm sure. Oh, wow. Oh, we're off the rails already. This is a new record.
and
what do you have to say?
Not even EP's fault for making us record on a Saturday, which is why I'm drinking iced tea, by the way. Because the EP making us record on a Saturday, I got so fucked up from drinking that I have to drink iced tea this week.
You're going to say stuff like that?
I checked the time. I'm good.
Well, I'm having a beverage. I'm okay. So,
and I have my Starbucks that I heated up and it's still really hot. So,
I can get us back into cards. I can do
there we go. Please do it. Please.
So I've had a couple really interesting sales and low end stuff, but I had one person buy 3 Baker Mayfield Uno Elite cards, including both of my yellows. Like if you're completing the set, you don't need both. So I'm not sure what is going on with that. But then also I had a sale from the Metal Avengers that was somebody bought all 4 of my Hulkling cards. They didn't buy anything else, but they bought all 4 of the Hulkling cards for whatever reason. And I was like, okay. I mean, they're all dupes. I have this one for my set, but I was just thought that was weird that if we come in, you're gonna like, I have a
5. How much did you open of that stuff? You got 5 Hawklings?
I also bought a lot of like 310 cards and had quite a few dupes in it. But yeah, so like I have a deal set up where it's like buy 2 cards, get 15% off, which is pretty generous. And I'm just trying to move like anything under $20. So all my free shipping stuff is buy 2, get 15% off. So I was like, oh, you can come in and buy, 4 of the Metal Avengers cards or whatever. But for some reason, the person that did it bought 4 of the exact same card, which I thought was a very weird thing.
He might know Hawkling. Here's the thing. And he might be getting them to get autographed.
Okay.
To then resell. I think that's a distinct possibility.
Could be a neighbor, yeah.
Yeah, neighbor of Hawkling. He could go over, ask for some autographs.
What if actual Hulkling, the Hulkling's real persona, the real their human persona, is the person that bought it, and they're buying it all for themselves to autograph and sell?
Maybe. All right. Well, if there's anybody still watching the podcast, I feel sorry for you, especially if you live in New Jersey.
Again, I will say this is the stuff that people will watch, like for sure. Like this is the stuff people come here for. The news is definitely secondary. There is no way they're coming here for the news. And if you are, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But nothing new with me. I bought some Star Trek cards. Shocking. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. Anything new, Rob? Anything new with us? We good? We're good. Things. I'm still recording down the dining room. You can tell we're still waiting to put the display up. Hopefully by the end of the year, Easter. Hopefully by Easter, Rob says. So yeah, what can you do? But yeah,
what are the open boxes over your right shoulder?
Oh, I have a box of Picard there, and a box of Star Trek. What is that? Archives and Inscriptions. I did record them for the channel, so at some point by Easter, maybe they might be on the channel too.
Maybe not. I don't know. I was busy editing my own video for this weekend, so. What did I rip? I don't even remember what I ripped this week. It was some kind of football product.
No, it was football for sure.
Yeah, it was some kind of football, but it's right there in the channel. No, it's not Donruss. It's just Donruss.
Okay.
Yeah. But make sure you watch that. For some reason, people don't watch those videos in the beginning, and then randomly, like 4 or 5 days later, the view total shoots way up on them. So I don't know. It's fun, but Donruss is a fun rip. I like low end football, so
Score was fun from watching that rip. That looked like it was a fun rip.
Yeah, well, Donruss
did okay with Donruss.
It's got some interesting parallels and stuff too. Like so, it's not like you're just pulling base card after base card after base card. So
yeah. All right. Well, we caused quite a stir last week, guys. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the comment section last week in the podcast got a little spicy. Our old buddy Ziggy No. Let's set the table here. Our old buddy Ziggy No. He has a little bit of a beef with Dustin, the sports car dad. We like Dustin. We like Ziggy. We're kind of caught in the middle of this beef. I feel like we're getting like all this collateral damage, but apparently talking about Jeff Wilson and not talking about Dustin made Ziggy really mad, and he said some mean things to us. Ziggy, that was not nice. People they love us. People don't want to hear hurtful words toward us. What are you doing? Come on, you're better than that. You know you are. But I digress. Back to the point. Yeah. So apparently, in Ziggy's opinion, and I know you're watching and I know you'll comment, and that's fair. We just want to have an open discussion because we have a podcast and this is what we do. So we figured it'd be a fun time to maybe talk about this a little bit. But I personally, I don't really understand the criticism. We are not hobby watchdogs, and we have never professed to be. Do we talk about stuff that goes on in the hobby? Absolutely. But we are not people out there digging that stuff up. There are plenty of other content providers that do that. Sports Card Radio did it. Dan the Card Man does a great job with it. I like watching his videos, but I'm not out there to play gotcha about stuff. So I know Ziggy has a problem with advertising in videos, and we've gone over this before. We just have a difference of opinion of that. Most people do, because most people have advertising in their video. But I feel that it was very unfair to say, to the thing that got me going was if Jeff Wilson would have promoted you, you would like him like you do Dustin. And it's like, no, they're two different people. They do the hobby completely differently. Like, Ziggy can have his thoughts on Dustin. That's fine. Everybody can have their own opinion about us, about anybody. But one thing we don't do is kiss people's butts just because, they're going to say something. First of all, Jeff Wilson doesn't do that. So let's keep that in mind. Dustin did, which you want to talk about the hobby and doing good for the hobby. Dustin has had smaller people and shouted them out. I don't see Jeff Wilson doing that. Jeff Wilson's not ever going to like us because we don't go about the hobby the same way that he does. And, we poke fun at what he does every now and then. A guy who literally made people lose lots of money by telling them to invest in this guy and that guy for years, now doing a value box. Yes, we're going to make fun of that because it is funny. That is the guy who was telling you to invest in this guy and invest in that guy and probably cost a lot of people money. Now he's digging through value boxes. Like, come on. It just comes across to me as incredibly fake. Jeff is
another F word that I would use. I think I have used Jeff actually.
Is a content creator, and he's doing that for content. And I understand it's not a personal thing. I'm sure if I met Jeff Wilson, had a chance to talk to him for a second, he'd be very polite. Or maybe he would hate us, but I would not be any kind of way to him. I'd be polite to him because it's not personal. It's just our opinions about how they do the hobby. But I'll turn it over to you, Joe, because I've said enough already.
I mean, I agree that the thing that kind of upset me a little bit about the comments, and people say shit on comments all the time. I don't care. Whatever. It is what it is. But thing that, because Ziggy has talked to us, Ziggy knows us. Ziggy's been on our channel several times on this podcast. Yep. And the thing that upset me was that we would in any way, shape, or form change our opinion. Like, this is right. This is like a Sunday thing that we get together and do for fun. This is, this has nothing to do with us trying to make ourselves feel or act like we're important in the hobby, because it's silly. It's silly to think. Yeah, like so. I mean, he could have. It would be like saying, "Oh, you'll vote for that politician because they were nice to you or they met you." Like, no, not if I don't agree with it. Like, it just, to me, it doesn't make any sense. So that's a part that kind of annoyed me. And say what you will about Dustin, I know we've poked fun at him as well. Like,
she even commented about us doing
right. That, so. Like, we enjoy poking fun at him for some of the stuff that he does. Admittedly, the advertising things. We make jokes. We have no problem with him having advertisers, but we will poke fun about him having advertisers. I got those cool Star Trek stands that a buddy 3D printed for me, and I got slab mags for the cards that I'm going to put in them. And when I post it on Twitter, I am totally going to post, and to get 10% off your slab mags, use my code SportsCardDad or something to that effect. Like, that's going to be a bit that I do because I'm making fun of Dustin. The biggest thing, though, Mike, you alluded to it. The biggest thing, though, is Jeff Wilson has a following of 300,000 subscribers. When you look for sports card content, odds are he's going to be the first one that pops up on your feed because he has such a reach. Dustin has like 20,000, and that's not nothing. We have like 1,500, and we are like through the moon about it. Dustin has like 20,000. Let's calm down about his influence on the hobby. I don't care that he has advertisers. Ziggy made a comment, so small crimes shouldn't be prosecuted, kind of thing. That's apples and the absolute opposite of apples.
Durian fruit, like durian.
Apples and fire trucks. Like, it's come on now. So the influence that Jeff Wilson has with his subscriber base over 300,000, as well as losing a lot of people money, claiming that the bottom had come and now's the time to buy, the pump and dump shit he does. I mean, I'm sorry. He's a fraud. Bleep me again. I've said it before. And I'll say it again. He is a fraud in this hobby.
Like, he also has promoted other companies in the hobby that ended up kind of being sketchy and ended up not like, and we don't comment about that. That's not what we do here. We're not here to look into who's advertising on which card content provider's video and figure out what that company that's advertising with them did. I'm sorry. I have a life. I don't care to dig into that. So it's not something I'm going to comment on for anybody.
Right. And one last point to that. It's kind of like, you know, when you look at two quarterbacks and they come into the league and you're like, they both look like they're going to be great quarterbacks. And then one goes to a shit team and one goes to a good team. And you're like, oh, well, the one that went to the good team clearly was, well, no, that's not the case. My point here is this. If Jeff Wilson and Sports Card Dad both promoted the same exact company, what's worse? The guy with 20,000 subscribers or the guy with 300,000 subscribers? To your point about him, you know, endorsing kind of shady people in this hobby, having people like Luber on his channel and having people like, say what you will. I mean, what's his name? Who ducked out of the hobby? Why can't I'm trying to, Gary V, you know, like talking with him, platforming him, as the kids would say. Like, there's a lot of shady people that Jeff Wilson has on his channel and a lot of companies that he promotes. And it's just, again, apples and fire trucks. It's so ridiculous.
BP, you weren't involved in the comments, so I'm actually interested to hear your opinion.
I did like all the comments, but I didn't interact because I didn't interact. The thing is, like I wrote down a bunch of notes. My first note I wrote down was, this is like mom and dad fighting for us, right? Because I mean, both of these guys they promoted us at the very beginning of the channel, and they're part of the reason why we have as many subscribers as we have, and like the people
we have good relationships with both of them.
So. Yes, exactly, both of them. So it feels like mom and dad, stop fighting, please, because the three of us are here. Like we're the ones that are suffering watching you guys fight. But I agree with you guys. Like I'm not going to say anybody don't do ads, don't do advertising. I mean that's like Mike said, everybody on YouTube, most everybody on YouTube puts ads on their thing. And if you're able to do it without going through the YouTube to do it, like you're gonna make a little bit more money. So I have nothing against that. That should be fine, and nobody should be upset about that. If you need to, you can just skip ahead in the video past the ad if that's really an issue. I wrote down Jeff Wilson, and I think if he was on our show, he'd be fine to talk to as a person, and we would have a conversation with him. We would ask him questions, and he would probably answer the questions, even if they were tough questions. I'm guessing
I would ask him how he feels, knowing that a lot of people probably lost a lot of money on his investment advice. That's all I want to know.
I think we're in agreement on that one. I think a lot of people want to know that. Well,
yeah, sure. But I'm guessing he would probably answer that question. I'm guessing he would have something to say to us about that question. No,
I think it would be a very political answer. Yeah. I think it'd be he would answer it, but very politically, I think.
Okay. And then the third thing I wrote down was the dollar box thing. Like, I have no problem with him changing his content to be more collecting focused. I have no problem with that. I have no problem with him going through a dollar box. What I had a problem with, which is why I rolled my eyes, and again, like I don't take shots at Jeff Wilson, but what bothered me about it was him trying to tell us, this is how you make money, or going through a dollar box. This is how you do a dollar box. When it could have just been a video of, I'm going to go through a dollar box, let's see what we can find, or something like that, as opposed to, and I realize it's on brand for him to say, oh, this is how you can make money on dollar boxes. But I feel like it just didn't, it hit me the wrong way. It upset me a little bit.
And I'll tell you what, we're going to talk about another story where we read an article from the New York Times. Guess who they quoted in that article? Wasn't Dustin the Sports Card Dad. It was Jeff Wilson. So if you don't think there is a difference with his followers and how many he has, it would be like comparing us to Jeff. I can't wrap my mind around that, someone with that much of a following and that much of an influence does not get held to a much higher standard. Dustin should be held to a higher standard than us, not to Jeff Wilson. I'm sorry. There is a huge difference. He's the one in the hobby documentary. I don't see Dustin in there. Like, he's the one that people, when they Google sports card YouTube videos, he's the one that's going to pop up. So, go after Dustin all you want. That's fine. But you better 15x the amount you go after Jeff Wilson, because that's a difference in subscribers.
All right. Well, you referenced a article from the New York Times we actually read. Can you believe
two of us?
Well, two of us.
I tried, but I hit the paywall.
The newspaper guy down there didn't read the article. We figured he must be blacklisted because I don't know what
the Daily Item beef with the New York Times is real, people.
Definitely.
You think the Ziggy and Dustin beef is bad? That Daily Item and New York Times beef? Woo! Wow. Have people blocking access to articles. But, big win for our hobby. This is sarcasm. There's an article about CT scanning in the New York Times. It was via The Athletic, and it was by Larry Holder and Craig Custance. Am I doing the right thing there, getting the reporters' names in there, EP? Thought you'd be proud of that. Yeah. So moving on. Yeah, it is about the Industrial Inspection and Consulting. That is the company that we've heard about that is charging people to CT scan boxes and cases of cards. They said they have had thousands of customers so far. First point I want to bring up here is they said that they were sitting around the lunchroom trying to figure out what they could do, and somebody brought up wondering if you could see a Charizard card in a Pokemon game, like a pack. And apparently them just sitting around the lunchroom throwing ideas off the wall is what led them to the point where they're like, hey, we can look in boxes of cards for people. Yeah, they call this a moral gray area many times in the article. The company themselves calls it a moral gray area. I'll leave my opinion aside on that. But the first thing that popped to mind was they actually just sat around and came up with this. That blows my mind.
So I either call total bullshit on that, and someone with a lot of sealed boxes maybe watched the Golden Touch, or maybe had thought themselves, I wonder if there's a way to look into these without breaking the seal, and reached out to a CT company. I don't know, chicken or the egg. It is what it is. But if they did, what I've been saying recently, there's no bad idea in a brainstorm, people. And they, this is what's apparently keeping their company afloat. So I don't know. I don't know if I believe that's how it worked, but giving them the benefit of the doubt, maybe it is. And they stumbled onto something that is making them money, making their company money, and may ruin our hobby for good. So that's awesome. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, that was my take. There was going to be that's making them money, right? Like, so I feel like, yes, it's a fun story that they talked about it at the thing, but I wonder if that person that had the sealed 1999 Pokemon box with the potential Charizard in it had already been scanning it and was like, hey, you know what? Because they're definitely using this for themselves. Like they have used it for themselves. Maybe they've already made all the money they need to make.
They say they're not collectors. You know what? They specifically say we are not collectors. I'm like, yeah, you're not. Yeah, you're people who are trying to con collectors essentially.
Yeah, the moral gray area was funny. The owner of the company was explaining that it's a moral gray area, but they feel like it's okay because they're being transparent about it, which they are, saying that,
Can I stop you real quick right there? Sure. The reason I want to say that they're not being transparent about it, they don't require someone to use their real name, real email address, or anything like that.
What? So I was going to get to that.
Yeah, that they're being transparent about not caring about the person sending them stuff's transparency. That shit's on them. That makes them not being transparent.
They claim to not know any of their customers because they said people don't want to be known, so they're using fake emails and fake names and stuff like that. take that with a grain of salt.
I love this, the live reaction of someone who didn't read the article. That is exactly how I felt when I read.
They're being transparent about what they're doing, but they're not being transparent and letting us know who's using their service, which they could easily require that. They could easily require verification of your identity if you're using their service. They know that people don't want that because they know that people in the hobby are going to do bad things with it. But they want to act like, yes, absolutely willful ignorance.
Like I trust 0% of anything they say and anything their company does. If they're the simple act of getting the name of your customer, if they're not even going to do that, the name of your customer, like that information,
the amount
you're done. Like that is like you are a scammer who is inviting other scammers to do scammy stuff.
The amount of things that you need your ID for in this world is staggering. And the fact that, first off, again, here's something that they said that I don't know if I 100% believe, because I'm sorry, if you're sending them a case of Flawless, you're telling me that there's no guarantee they know exactly who they're sending it back to. I have a hard time believing that as well. So they might say they came up with this on a whim in a lunch table, and they might say they don't know who all these people are. I kind of call bullshit on all of that because someone came to them and told them.
Somebody came to them, yeah.
And people aren't just like slapping a stamp on a case of Flawless and mailing it to this company and being like, just mail it back to this return PO box. The insurance liability there is kind of crazy too, if you're going to mail it back to them. So I call bullshit on this whole thing. We don't know what we're doing. We're just trying to help people figure out what's in their cases of cards. Like, it all smells like bullcrap.
Like, I don't even believe, I haven't read the article, but I don't even believe that the guy who's the CEO gave his real name, and any of the employees that were interviewed gave their real names at this point, right? Like, can you believe anything?
Maybe not.
The way the writer described the location,
shady,
by railroad track, a nondescript building, paper covering the windows. I'm like, this is where you go to die in a Saw movie.
Bunch of SUVs out back with black windows,
this all is super shady.
Yeah, it's a moral gray area, but we're being transparent. Is clearly no, we're not, but we want our name and what we do to get out there, so people in the hobby that might want to use this will come to us and give us money to do it. That's clearly what it is. You're not being transparent because you're trying to do good. You know what you're doing. Just if you're calling anything a moral gray area, odds are you're probably doing something that most people think are shady. Like, right? Am I wrong?
And beyond that, knowing that people would not want to give you their real names.
Yeah. And being okay with that.
It's bad.
Some of these people are dropping this stuff off and picking it up. Like, you're meeting these people. You're making connections in the hobby. You're just protecting the people that are there. You're not. This is
you got to protect Jeff Wilson. You have to protect Jeff Wilson from dropping. I mean, someone who's into sports cards, maybe investing as well. You want to protect that person that spells their name very weird and make sure that they are taken care of. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, you don't think
that. Or Dustin.
That's totally a bit that Joe did. There's no truth.
Yeah. There's no truth.
Anybody's lawyers watching this is absolutely just Joe making a joke.
Yeah, I'm
that's going to get us all sued, and we won't be here next week. But yeah, thanks for that, Joe. But one of the things, of all people, Nat Turner was asked about this in an interview, and he said that manufacturers are going to have to respond. Yet this article reached out to Fanatics, Panini, Golden, Upper Deck, eBay, and nobody wanted to be interviewed. Nobody wanted to talk about
it. And this is not a podcast reaching out to these companies. No, this is like the Athletic and the New York Times reaching out to these companies. So the fact that they did not respond makes me think they're scared to death of this whole thing, and they don't want to.
This is the problem.
Put themselves out there.
they have to have ways that they could fix this. They can do something to make it not as easy for companies to do this. This has now been in the hobby for a while. New York Times, this is our hobby. And in this kind of an article about our hobby is in the New York Times. You're Michael Rubin, you want to 10x the hobby. Stuff like this in the New York Times is not going to get that done for you, because people that don't collect cards are going to, if they happen to read that article, they're going to be like, what? They're doing what? How are these idiots not like being arrested for doing this? That's what a normal person would think.
So I sent this article real quick. I sent this article to two people who are not in the hobby, both very educated people. One's a lawyer who graduated from Harvard, and the other one is an engineer that graduated from Pitt. All right. They have no idea about cards. First and foremost, they're like, boy, trading cards sounds like straight up gambling. Unprovoked. They just came out and said, boy, this sounds like gambling. And the one guy, the lawyer, said to him, he didn't know. He said, this sounds really shady, but he's like, but with the gambling aspect, it sounds like you went from a 5% chance to get a really good card, which I don't even think it's 5%, to a 0% chance to get a good card. And he goes, I don't know. It sounds to me like you shouldn't be buying boxes of cards. Hand to God, this is what he texted to me. And I'm like, yeah, that's why I stick to Star Trek cards. But those cards are starting to go up in value. So maybe people are going to start scanning those as well. I mean, this is a more expensive and bigger scale, literally bigger scale situation, as in someone going to Walmart and weighing blaster boxes, like, but at a much higher level, a like much more valuable
times
level.
100, something like that,
right? 1,000 maybe. Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. One of my things that I thought of was, as we're talking about this, like the New York Times, like Athletic is a New York Times brand, and they are like, I mean, they're known to be one of the top, journalistically one of the best in the country, one of the top in the country. You would think they vetted all this sort of stuff, and I don't know if the Athletic is held to a different standard as far as like vetting interviewees and being edited in stories and stuff like that, and the the value of the stories, because this seems like one that they might not run just because of because it feels so shady. I mean, but I wonder if also, and I reached out to they did due diligence and they reached out to all these different companies and try to get somebody to comment on it. I have a feeling like the shoe's gonna drop on this, right? So something's gonna happen that stuff's gonna go bad, where like they're either going to get called out or something like that, and there's gonna be a bad story. And I wonder if all those different companies that said they weren't gonna comment will comment for that one and say, yeah, we saw this coming, or something like that. To one of your questions, Mike, about how the companies could do something, there's probably some sort of like people that when they are working in radioactive stuff, they wear like little tags that can show if there's been any sort of exposure to radiation. Mm-hmm. And for something like Flawless or National Treasures, those really high end stuff, they could put a little one of those right there on the top of the box when people open it up, or at the top of the case. And when you open it up, right there it is. And you can tell, oh well, this has been scanned. And then that would be something if the companies actually wanted to put that money into it and cared enough to do that.
So two things real quick. One, I want to read this text directly from my buddy. He sent it to me about this because this encapsulates it so well. He goes, I mean, yeah, it sounds like shady people now have tech that helps them be shadier. But what are we trying to preserve here? A status quo that's still about people basically gambling to try and snag a high quality athlete or Pokemon card when the manufacturer holds all the cards, literally. So true. The manufacturers are the only ones that are making out in this because they're still selling the product. They don't care. They don't care. Wait, that's why Topps didn't comment. That's why Upper Deck didn't comment. They don't want people to know that they're getting their money regardless. Mm-hmm. Michael Rubin can hold as many white parties as he wants because they're getting the money regardless. And EP, to your point about the fix, ironically, in this article, they talk about working on technology. This company who is trying to scam the hobby, working on technology to stop companies from scamming the hobby using CT scanners. They're coming, so they're giving you the disease and selling you the cure. That is exactly what's going on here. And I'll tell you what, it is this whole thing is so gross. We talked about the CT scanning thing for a while, and shout out to Ziggy again, who was one of the first people to bring this out in the open.
He was
that
absolutely
the idea of, and
me.
you know, there was, you know, people are taking credit for it now, and the story quoted some other people, but Ziggy was the one who brought it to us, and we were pretty early in on this as well. But again, guess who the article quoted? Didn't quote Dustin the Sports Card Dad. It quoted Jeff Wilson in his content because The Athletic probably found them pretty easily, probably found his content much quicker. And so he had 300,000 subscribers and used his content for this article.
Me and Joe have kind of dominated this conversation now, but I apologize. I just want to interject one more thing. Like, this company's not the only people using the scanners, though. So them developing something to do it like that actually would be helpful, because I guarantee you there are breakers out there. Some of the bigger breakers, they have to have these things, right? They have to have access.
Oh boy, here it comes.
It has appeared in the new
is on. Oh boy.
All right, boys. I got this in the mail the other day. God's honest truth. Before this story came out, before we read about it, it was going to be a bit at the top of the podcast. As you know, I have a beautiful little dog, Bailey, and I can go and take her to the new vet that is in our area, Family Vet. They sent us this very nice little thing, 50% off dental cleaning and treatment. Welcome to the family, bundle discounts, and now offering CT scans. Boys, Bailey will eat anything, okay? So I say, my conspiracy theory is, I say we start charging people to send me cards for Bailey to eat, packs of cards, right? And then I take her to the Family Vet, okay? Here in Pittsburgh, Upper St. Clair area. I send her to get CT scan. Boom. Boom. Are we good? Are we set?
They invite you in to look at the scan, and they're like, "We just can't figure out what this square thing is." And you're like, "That's a
Tom Brady rookie card." Conspiracy hat off, but I'm telling you what, maybe they're getting it. Maybe I should call them and say, like, "Hey, let me tell you what, you could make way more money than being a vet by using the CT scanning machine." How weird is it that I got this like yesterday?
Right.
Can I sublet your CT scan after you close? Make you some extra money?
What's the cost on that sublet?
Listen, it's for the dogs. We listen. We help you guys.
Yeah.
Help with the dogs, and we can.
Remember when in movies, like if a gangster got shot, they would take him to a vet.
Yeah.
Now it's like, oh well, we can't take them to this CT scanning place. They're in the news now. We got to go to a vet. So you have all these guard people going to vets and paying them off book to have them CT scan their boxes.
Wow. Well, I think we'll wrap that one up there. Joe, you sent me this one about a Topps tweet this week, which you found quite interesting. They tweeted a picture of a Shohei Ohtani MLB debut card with an autograph on it in Japanese with the caption, "Imagine if this actually existed." And Joe, I know maybe you should have left the conspiracy hat back on, but your first assumption was, oh, they're up to something.
Test balloon has been released. And it's going to come down to what the response is. If they haven't already made this, it will be made, and they will make it for Nolan Ryan. They will make it for, I don't know, any other baseball players, but they will make it for Mickey Mantle. I mean, they're going to make this for pretty much every athlete now. So the specialness that we got from these MLB debut patches will be gone in now. I mean, if they start doing this, it's such a money grab, and it's gonna happen.
They're gonna do the MLB debut, or do you think it'll be something else that is similar? Because I
hope
you brought this up, and it was very interesting timing because I was reading an article on Collect, and it was about the Logo Man and about how Topps, like, kind of baseball is kind of the one sport where the Logo Man is not really quite as big of a deal, and they are releasing some cool Logo Man cards with autographs of players and stuff in, I forget, Dynasty or something like that. I could be wrong on the set, but also Topps was saying about with the popularity of the MLB debut, that they're trying to think of ways that they can, incorporate older veteran players and retired players into stuff like this. So I think there's a real connection between the article I read and the tweet that guy saw. Clearly they're testing the waters and seeing what kind of demand they're going to have. I mean, they're going to have demand if they come up with a Ken Griffey Jr. card that is a special patch, but I don't know what that is yet.
Right. What makes those patches so special is that they were worn on the first time. Like I just stop funding these white parties, man. You've got enough money. It's just it's so obviously gross and so obviously a money grab, but that's where we're at. That's where we're at.
I mean, I think characterizing it as those two things, I mean, it is, but I mean, they're also looking at this extremely popular thing, and they're just looking for ways to make more money off of it. And I mean,
isn't that a money grab?
They're doing it.
Yeah, that's literally you described a money grab.
It is, but they're also a company that's in business to make money. So but you
love those debut patches, EP, right?
I think they're amazing.
Don't you think this waters it down to make them less amazing?
I mean, they can't do an MLB debut patch for those, but I think they can do something.
That's adorable that you think they can, by the way.
Well, I mean, they can for sure. They can for sure. I mean, the issue is going to be when all of a sudden the MLB debut patches become out of 5 or out of 10 or out of 20, and then you can only get them through Topps now. And that's going to be when things are going to get worse. If they were to do like one player, like a Griffey next year in Series 1, and that ends up being one of the chase cards, and it is similar to the MLB debut, but it's not the MLB debut, the actual debut patch, then I think they're just doing what a company does, and they're looking at this thing and saying, we need to do more of this, figure out a way to make it happen. And this test balloon is the word you use now. Absolutely. Like, this is definitely
imagine all
what that is. So
Series 1 boxes that are CT scan next year, if that's the case.
That's true.
Now, keep in mind, they are a business, though, that are in the collectibles industry. So where normally a business is all about, okay, how can we make more money? I mean, let's be real. They are this way. But when you're in the collectibles market, you're just going to kill the market long term if you don't think about the collectability of what you're making. This is how the junk wax era happened, because the companies are like, oh, we can sell how many of the, just keep printing. I don't care. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, print cards. And eventually people will figure out that, oh crap, there's a lot of this stuff like is going to be happening very soon.
It's all numbered really low, Mike. It's all super low numbered.
But the companies don't care, right? That's the bottom line. Like they haven't cared forever in this hobby. They will do that. So that's why I agree it's going to happen. Like, right? Like there's no doubt this is going to happen in some way.
You know, people have been throwing Upper Deck under the bus recently for the money grab that they're doing with some of their Marvel products. There's another Marvel Masterpiece product coming out like for 2024. Like they rushed it to production because they're losing the license, I guess, at 12/31/2024 at 11:59 p.m. I don't like they're going to be losing it really, really soon. So legitimately, I think they lose it at midnight on 12/31 is what Spidey Hits was saying. And there's another Marvel Masterpieces. They've done a reprint of this last Marvel Masterpieces set into jumbo cards. They've done a reprint of the 1992 into chromium cards. Again, it's a money grab, but the difference is Upper Deck is getting out of the Marvel business. They have to do this right now, where you would hope that someplace like Fanatics, who should be worried about the long-term effect of this, because again, they're the only show in town for 20 years with some of the biggest properties. But it doesn't seem like they care, because they know that collectors also right now in the moment don't care. They'll just keep buying this stuff. You tell them that there's a debut patch for Shohei Ohtani and it's a big chase, they'll be chasing it. They don't care that it's not actually a Shohei Ohtani debut patch. And I'm waiting for the year you made the joke about Topps Now EP, which maybe you weren't making a joke. I could see them doing Topps Now stuff. I could see a player going out on their first at bat and they look like a NASCAR driver, because Fanatics is slapping slapping 50 patches on them to then make cards. You laugh. I'm dead serious.
No. Yeah, I was picturing.
No, we laughed because we followed through. Yeah,
I could absolutely see them doing that. Oh, this is their debut patch from that game. This is their logo man from that game. This is their this. This is their that. I could absolutely see that happening because again, it's all about printing cards and making money for them. It's not about the collectability. To Mike's point.
An EP, like, just remember the Lear, remember Pacific, remember Pinnacle, remember Leaf, remember Donruss. This hobby is littered with companies that didn't make it because they didn't do things right. Topps, let's be real. Topps now, they were done. Topps was done for. If Fanatics did not buy Topps, Topps would not have been a thing. So just because they're the only show in town doesn't mean that they might get to a point where if the hobby drops off, they have a lot of money invested in this hobby. If the hobby drops instead of grows, they could be in huge financial problem from this hobby. They're putting a lot of eggs in the basket of a hobby that was super hot when they bought it. They bought high, and all it's done is really kind of declined a little bit since then. Hasn't fallen off or anything too dramatically, but I am a little worried about the future if they don't take the collectability of what they're making seriously. And go back to episode 1. Remember that interview with Bill Simmons that Michael Rubin did? Didn't he talk about that? Like, he was talking about that. And then what they're doing is kind of like, well, we can make a lot of money though if we do this and that.
Right. It's like a politician promising everything on the campaign trail. Then when they get elected, it's like, I didn't say any of that stuff, right?
Well, I just want to say, Mike, that I agree 100% with that. From their perspective, they're trying to make all the money they can. I agree that that they're in the collectibles business, but I don't think they give a crap about that, and they're just looking to make money, and we're the ones that are going to pay the price if that happens. And these very, very cool debut patches could get watered down. 100% could see that. Yeah.
Wait. I have a little joking side conspiracy here.
Oh, geez.
I don't want to waste the hat's juice, but so. A buddy of mine said, one of my friends I texted, he goes, why don't people just buy directly from the companies then if they're worried about these cards being CT scanned? And I said, well, generally the companies, they do these things called, I tried to explain what a Dutch auction was. That didn't go great. And then I was talking about, generally the companies sell to distributors or they sell cases, and this and that. Maybe Fanatics is the one spooking the industry about these CT scan things, so that they can get rid of the middleman and sell all this stuff directly. What do we think? I could see Michael Rubin doing something crazy.
I feel like they could just do that if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's fair.
And I feel like maybe eventually
I
thought that from the beginning that out there they're going to go. All right, well, let's move on a little bit here. PSA had a tweet this week as well. They were announcing custom fits for die cut cards. If you send in a raw card at the regular service level or higher and it's die cut, they will make a custom insert inside of your graded card that will hold the card in place. What do we think about that? Sounds pretty good to me. Anybody?
You can go first, CP.
Oh boy.
I want to say that they don't have a I don't want to say they don't have a good track record, but I've seen a number of examples of cards getting damaged by them, and it seems like a lot of times they get damaged when they're being put in the case. And so you're going to I think they used an example of one of the Topps laser cards or something very elaborate die cut. And as the example on the tweet, I'm like, they're going to damage that card 100%. Like that card is not going to be whatever the grade was when they were grading it. After they put it in that plastic, it's not going to be that.
But they'll still say it on the label, EP, so you'll be safe, right?
Sure. So I'd rather have a card that maybe jiggles around a little bit in that case, even though we do hate that and we could be damaged. I'd rather have that than something that is probably going to damage the card when they slap it together.
100% what I was going to say, EP. 100% what I was going to say. I'll watch Alico 3 do reveals, and he'll look at a card and it'll be graded a 9 or a 10, and he'll flip it over, and there'll be a big crimp in the one corner. He goes, Yeah, well, they did that when they were encapsulating it. I mean, it happens more often than not. I just like it. To me, it reminds me of me when I look at a card. I'm like, okay, this looks good, and I put it into a sleeve in the top layer. I'm like, oh, wait a minute, is that damn? And I take it out. I look at it again. I put it back in it. Wait a minute, is that a hair in there? I take it, and you're trying to protect the card. But as you're trying more to protect the card, you actually end up damaging the card. Could you imagine this with a triumvirate? Like a 90s triumvirate?
Right,
like
right.
I do not love I do not trust that this company will do it to the point where there is no chance of damage. I can't. And these die cut cards, most of them are in inner sleeves. So those don't generally shake around anyway.
Oh, really?
Like the ones that do are like pro set cards from 1991. Like for the most part, like I had the Brady die cut medallion from Fleer Ultra his rookie year, and it was in an inner sleeve. Most cards like that are. Nat Turner's card that remember that triumvirate that had a little piece of the sticker on it. Mm-hmm. That was in an inner sleeve too. I mean, so most cards like that are in inner sleeves. That should be fine enough. Also, though, it feels like they're going more towards how SGC displays cards with the, like the border, like the colored border. Isn't that base? I'd like to know what the border looks like. Is it going to be a colored border? Is it a frosted border? I'm not sure, but I wouldn't want to give them the chance to jack up my card any more than they possibly could.
I think the insert is clear, but now you like totally scared me off from ever wanting to send one in, because now I'm afraid that it's just going to come. I'm picturing like a Pacific Pro Bowl, like the palm tree one, and it's going to be like all.
Oh yeah, they're gonna.
It would look really cool, but the chance of damage just feels like it's.
Way to burst my bubble! I was excited about this. Now I learned to you two, and now I'm not going to use it.
Smart.
Is there like an opt out that I can check the box? I don't want it. Don't do that. Oh,
that's actually a good question. Is there an opt out, or is this an automatic thing now? I mean, hopefully there is an opt out.
If they have to create a whole new, like print a whole extra thing for it, I'm guessing it's probably for $5 more we'll give you
because they have to print them to order too. Because for your example, Mike, like if that card's off center, like if you take 10 of those Pro Bowl ones and stack them one on top of the other, they're not going to be perfectly fit. So these have to be made to order. So it'd be shocking if they weren't charging. I would hope you can opt out if they aren't, or they're just going to charge everyone more money, and then you opt out but still have to pay more money because you're opting out.
What do they have to do with the card to like make it like to get the design of it right? Like they have to handle I'm never using that ever.
You're welcome, Mike. You're welcome.
But something I may use is PSA has now started their buy it now consignments on, we talked before about how you can now send a card into PSA, leave it there in their vault, and they can sell it for you and they can give you the money for it. It was only auctions when they started it back in, I believe, July. And now they're offering the buy it now. It's one thing I found interesting too. They've sold 257,000 cards on eBay since they announced this, and they have 37,000 active listings currently before the buy it now starts. I
Slightly more than EP has currently.
Just a little bit, not too much, but yeah, this is actually something I've been waiting for, and next time I have an order that is to sell, I think I'm going to try this. I feel like I owe it to the viewers to try this out, right?
Is this an all or nothing thing? Like if you send in 10 cards,
no, you can pick and choose. Yeah,
so that's good.
When they send you that the grades are there, you can pick which card you want to send to the vault or send to be consigned and send back to you. So that was something they added during all this too.
That's smart.
Yeah, you don't have to send everything or get everything back.
So I, as a seller, I love this way more. Like we always say this: if you're selling a card, list it, buy it now. If you're buying a card, look for an auction, right? And I think a lot of people probably knowing this now, unless it was a card that was super hot in the moment that an auction made sense. And were they the ones that were screwing up? No, that was Fanatics for screwing up the auction pictures, right? that was
I think
an issue.
PSA did one too.
Oh, did they?
PSA did one too, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that way, if it's a buy it now, you're less fearful of an auction, possibly ruining the value of the card. Yeah. So as a seller, it's definitely something I would look into if I was selling cards that weren't in that, like the Drew Jones, for example, EP. It was smarter to do that as an auction to get it moving. But yeah, it's a good thing, and I'm glad you can keep the ones back that you want to.
Yeah, two really good developments in this thing. We've talked about this when they first announced it, that this is not something that I would probably use for much of my stuff. A lot of the stuff I send in is stuff from the '90s, so there's not a lot of people searching for that stuff. So even with the extra exposure from PSA, I'm guessing my cards probably would not be seen by a ton of people. That's something I would consider trying, especially now that you can, now that we know for sure that you can choose what goes and what comes back. I do enjoy getting my cards back and looking at them. Kind of the reveal to myself is a fun thing. But as far as selling, if you are just somebody like Little Victories, like this is something perfect for him, where he can get his gold refractors back, and then, or the black refractors, whichever one he's doing, and he can get those back, the ones that he's collecting, and then sell the other ones. So I do like that for those kinds of people, and I'm with Mike. I should probably at some point try it just because and see if I have something that's relatively higher end, relatively new, like in demand player. I probably should try it.
I that brings up a good point. I'm curious about someone like Little Victory, someone like Alico 3, who have very robust eBay stores anyway. I don't know if it makes sense for them to do that, maybe because he likes the content of revealing the cards. Plus, then he has such an eBay following, it might make sense for him just to list them. Mike, you would do it definitely as like an experimental thing, but also that's not your full-time job, right? You're not sitting there listing cards on eBay every day. For someone who's it is, I'm more curious what they would do with this. Is the exposure of PSA? Sure, it's probably better than the exposure they have, but they built that following. So I'm curious how they would consider doing it.
All right. Another big sale this week. There was a Caitlin Clark gold vinyl out of Select 1/1 autograph. It was graded a PSA 10, and the auto was also graded a 10. $234,000, and apparently that record may not stand for long because one of the black finites out of Select, the 1/1, was pulled recently, and people think that card. But wow, a WNBA player, $234,000. It was just slightly below the Venus Williams card that was at the peak.
I was going to say that was going to be my point, Mike. I mean, you look at movies that Titanic was $1 billion movie, but it's been beat out by Avengers, whatever. It's like, well, yeah, but if you look at the ticket sales and the cost of tickets and things like that, I'm thinking so. Like, it's kind of reverse of that. With this card coming out now and the boom being when that Serena Williams card sold. I mean, if you look at the trajectory of how cards have gone down, this would be number one with a bullet. Easy, I think, if it's sold during the boom or vice versa. So women's sports, we talked specifically about WNBA, but this household has turned into a Pitt women's volleyball household. They're in the Final Four. They're playing Louisville to get into the finals. I mean, the broadcast, and Rob made a good point. He said, this is how you need to push women's sports. During the Kentucky game, the men's basketball game, during intermissions and breaks, they were playing on the big screen. They were playing the Kentucky women's volleyball game. You need to, get it into people's heads that women's sports is a viable alternative for entertainment, and they have done this. Caitlin Clark, Athlete of the Year. There's a lot of Time Magazine Athlete of the Year. There's a lot of buzz about her. So when you said 200,000, Mike, I actually thought it'd go higher. I'm not going to lie. I thought it might have eclipsed that Serena Williams card.
I mean, a lot of great points, Joe. But I'm going to riff off a lot of that stuff just because I have a lot of the same thoughts. This is a massive, massive sale, like just incredible sale, for a women's athlete outside of the boom. Like that's the thing. Like this is crazy big. She seems to have that Michael Jordan juice that we kind of talked about, like the person that could maybe elevate not only the WNBA, but like you said, Joe, like all of women's sports. Like she has that kind of personality. She has that kind of like the charisma. Like there's just something about it that she might be this player that kind of finally allows people to say women's sports are a thing that like we all need to pay attention to. And I'm here for it. I love it. It's great. I can't afford a card like that, obviously, but
it's the Wayne L. Day test. It's the Wayne L. Day test. My grandfather, I guarantee you, he can name Caitlin Clark, and he could not name a single NBA player right now. Guaranteed.
That's wild.
And you have to wonder too, like when Prism comes out, like her 1-of-1 out of that will surpass this. Do they do a National Treasures? Do you think she could? Do you think the interest in her would
they have to, right?
National Treasures, yes. Yeah. National Treasures, yes. I don't think Flawless. I think they could do a National Treasures product. I don't think they could do Flawless.
Just is it because Flawless has a lot? There's a lot more with retired players, right? Is that the kind of thing? Because I wonder if
I was just thinking the price. Like the price of Flawless is so much higher, compared.
Yeah, but look at the price of Select Hobby when that came out. It was like $800 for a box of that. So I don't know. Might be able to carry a high-end product like that. Yeah. They're going to go to breakers anyway. So can they sell off the other spots? I guess.
They would have to do random. You just have to do random. You can't do by team with something like that. So, but yeah, if they did that, I mean, if it was going majority of it to breakers, I could definitely see that. That's a good point. But
I mean, it does.
Flawless would be, Flawless would be tough. National Treasures, I think, it'd be shocking if they didn't at this point.
I would like. I think that people that are actually into the sport, not just the bandwagon jumpers, that people are actually getting into WNBA would be interested in getting
people that were into it before the bandwagon.
Wait. Do I need to do the point again? Don't you lie to me. You people out there watching and tell me you've been watching WNBA for years because you're full of shit.
The people who have been fans for a long time or the people who are actually getting into the sport, I think they would love to get like autos of Cheryl Swoops and Cynthia Cooper and all those like the all-time greats, Tamika Catchings, like all those players that from back in the 90s and 2000s. So
I have a box of 2000 Dominion WNBA basketball, so I'm an OG.
Yeah, you probably didn't buy it in 2000.
I might have bought it last Friday. I don't know.
By the way,
last Friday, one or the other.
When I did the point, you can't say you've been watching WNBA for years. For some reason, we were just talking about Stripes before we started recording. It made me think of you're going to say I've been listening to Tito Puente for years. I don't know. That cracks me up. Stripes, OG, great movie.
All right. Did you know that since Bowman Draft was released last week, I thought bring up the fact that the Bowman Draft Tom Brady inscribed autograph from last year still has not been pulled or has been pulled and somebody's not telling somebody that they pulled it. Where's Tom Brady? Topps even tweeted about it. Did they even put it in the product? Let me just go on a tangent here because I see a lot of talk about, the Olympic autograph one. If I had your hat, Joe, I would put it on here, but I'm just saying
big enough it might reach the Danville or Buckhorn.
It might. I'm not saying this is the case, but I am saying if you control the production of all this, you could possibly not put something in a product and then say, oh, it must be in a sealed box somewhere, or somebody must have pulled it and they don't want people to know. Like, I'm just saying, I'm not saying that's what they do.
In case Michael Rubin sues us, since Mike was worried about us getting sued by Jeff Wilson.
But
this is just a bit, everyone.
I don't see how that is a non-possibility in some people's minds. I would like to think that these companies are on the up and up, and it is in there, and it probably is. And this is all speculation on my part, so we don't get sued. But I'm saying if a company wanted to be evil, especially with the Topps now, like, oh, yeah, somebody must still have that sealed. Who? Like, again, I think I have this.
Who's not opening?
Yeah, the Topps now, you're sending all those out. You know where the cards are being sent to, I feel like you need to be able to track that card so you can prove that it was actually put in there. I know I've said this before. I don't see any system in place where I can be 100% sure that the card is in the product. Okay, take my hat off. That was all speculation. Just
all a bit. I will say, maybe not nefarious, but stupidity, because we've seen that too, right?
Maybe somebody stole it at the plant.
Maybe someone stole it. Maybe it was nefarious on the company's part, the employee's part, or stupidity. We've seen them forget to put shit in boxes before. Yes, it was fine when it was just the rookies, right? A few years ago, and they could say, well, that's before we officially took over, right? This would be huge. Could you imagine the shit show if they're walking around the production floor and they're like, oh, wait, wasn't that Tom Brady autograph supposed to go in those boxes? Oops. And then everyone's like, shut up about it, because the class action lawsuit, because they were selling those boxes with the guarantee that someone was going to pull that card. That was the chase of the product, bar none. I don't care who the rookies were in that set, whatever. That was the chase. So maybe not nefariously, Mike, but I'm kind of with you on that conspiracy. There's something going on here if this card hasn't been pulled. They do produce a lot of that product, though, so who knows? Maybe it is the case. Or maybe go back to the first story we talked about, and maybe someone hasn't CT scanned it yet, and we're still waiting on that information.
Or maybe they have, and they put that box aside.
They put the box aside because guess what? They have a lot of other sealed boxes that they want to sell before this gets pulled. We've always made comments about that before, too, when that was at Luca 101. Those boxes are still really expensive because everyone's chasing that 101. Well, what if someone knows they have it or already pulled it, but also have a lot of sealed boxes that they want to sell at the highest possible value? One last point, EP. So my buddy who I was texting with about the story that we talked about, the CT scan story, said, why not just buy directly from the manufacturer? And I said, there is question about how up and up even the manufacturers are in this hobby. To your point, Mike. So again, unprovoked, but you kind of have to think about that as you're buying product. How up and up are these people
just
that we're
because
trusting
we
with this
don't
hobby?
know. There isn't transparency that they can say absolutely yes, this was sent in to somebody somewhere. We don't know.
Yep.
For as much as I was ripping on the CT scanning company, there is a lack of transparency, so much lack of transparency across this hobby, right? But like we want to see, like we said, we want to see inside PSA. We want to see how that whole process is. We've been talking about that forever. With same thing with the tops, like their printing facility, and even like their warehouse and stuff like that. Like show us all this sort of stuff. All of that said, I'm not a big believer in conspiracy theories. I believe that I'm more of a believer in Occam's razor, which is the simplest the simplest answer is usually the correct answer typically. But that said, hear me out. What if you could totally see an employee finding this Tom Brady card and saying, "Oh," and putting it in their pocket, and then reaching out to Tom Brady and say, "Hey, guess what I got?" And then there's a negotiation going on. The reason we don't know about it is because there's a negotiation going on, and Tom Brady's going to get that card.
Tom Brady owns the card.
Yeah. And so like
or maybe Tom Brady just pocketed it as he was signing them all.
That's possible. One for me, one for the pack. One for me, one
for me, one for the pack.
So, but the bottom line, my opinion on this one is they put that in there and they knew they were putting it in there, and they've said we're going to print the mother effing F out of this product. So it's probably in an unopened box somewhere, and an open case somewhere in a warehouse somewhere, and that's probably the most likely.
Someone who would say something like that, EP, what would you call them? What would you call them, EP? Starts with a C.
Nope. Nope. Collector.
Come on.
Collector.
Yeah, collectors. Yeah, that's what I meant.
All right. Well, I'm going to end things this week with a little segment for you called Things I Learned on Twitter This Week.
Oh, dear.
I love this because I know exactly where you're going, and I love every second of it. Okay.
There were two things that I learned from some bigger accounts on Twitter that are into cards. The first thing I learned was that
myself. I'm going to laugh too hard.
The first thing I learned was that grading is more than just centering. that it is also about corners and surface.
So when I saw this,
in case you guys didn't know, when PSA gets a card, they're not just looking at the centering. They are also looking at just 2 more things, no more than 2. They're just also going to look at the corners and the surface and the centering of the card.
Yeah. So when I saw this, I said to you guys, wait until this guy hears about edges. It's going to blow his fucking mind. Again, big account, grades a lot of cards with PSA, and he was talking about this like he just split the atom. Mind-blowing stuff, guys. Mind-blowing stuff.
I have a huge pile of cards behind me here. I had all ready to go to PSA, and now I have to go back through them because I was only looking at the centering.
I mean, I first off, that's just a bit. Mike's being a pecker about this. So you need to just calm it down and just send those cards in. You already looked at all 4 of the things we all know about. Okay.
I was at an office Christmas party yesterday, and I was at that, and so like I was kind of on radio silence with these guys. I was trying to pay attention to the guests and that sort of stuff, and so I get home and I check my phone. And I sent a text before I went back and read all the texts. Like, hey, I was just back from the Christmas party. What did I miss? And then you guys dropped these bombs on me. My response was wait, was it like Christmas party time machine? Did I go back to 1999 when Beckett first started grading cards and they decided to do this stuff? Like, what's going on?
Well, funny you bring up 1999 because there is a big card seller on Twitter. Sells a lot of cards, a lot of high-end cards, has been on there, one of the bigger accounts that I know of. Mm-hmm. And he tweeted, and I found this like fascinating because I didn't know. Like, isn't it cool when you can like go on Twitter, go through your feed, and you read something,
learn something new every day?
Yeah. Wow, holy cow! Thank you for informing me. He let it be known to all his followers that he's been at the shows and stuff, and like Pokemon like really seems to be hot. Like Pokemon is apparently hot now, and he's going to look into it because he didn't realize, he did sports cards, but now apparently out of nowhere, Pokemon cards are hot. Like why Pokemon? I don't understand. He didn't understand it.
Yeah,
like you said that, but I just found out and I was like shocked. I couldn't wait to text you guys because I didn't.
We almost had an emergency pod over these 2 topics. We almost
close.
We've only done it one other time, and I think we might have to consider it in the future. He was talking about Pokemon like it literally just came out. Like literally, like what's this Pokemon? Am I saying that right? What is this Pokemon thing?
Hey, these Pokemans. What are these
Pokemans? What are these Pokemon things? Like it literally sounded like my grandfather in 1999. It really like what was this Pokemon thing? But yeah, like it was mind blowing to me that anyone in the card space, I don't care how much you're just into sports, that anyone in the card space doesn't know that Pokemon is kind of a thing, and it's been a thing for quite some time. Probably started going up before sports cards did, to be honest. Like the following of those probably preceded the sports card boom, I would guess.
Yeah, I mean, this is no news to us, right? Like Mike sold so many of these in his shop back in the day, like
in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Kept you open for a little stretch there.
And the thing is, like, it's not like it has slowed down. Like cards had the lull, but I feel pretty sure that Pokemon has just had like a constant like stream of people that just buy it just because it's a different kind of thing. And like you said, Joe, like, there's no way there, even if you aren't in the card space, like didn't Jake Paul go out to a boxing match with like or UFC or MMA fight or something like that with the Charizard like in like
in the chain.
I'm like so that
this guy's definitely someone who watches that crap. So
So Pokemon like transcends so much of that stuff, like, and that so to act like it's a big deal. Maybe he was taking the piss. I don't know.
That's the second time you've used that British expression, taking the piss, in the last like week. I'm not here for it, EP. You need
to work. Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. You need to have a British accent if you're gonna say that.
Let EP know in the comments. It's just not working.
Unless he's gonna say it again in a British accent, which I would be here for.
All right.
Do you have anything else you'd like to add, EP? Like
no, that was it. I just had
curse word.
No,
just to throw out for our viewers.
Keep trying. You know, there are some words in that over in Britain that aren't curse words that maybe you wouldn't want to drop right now for our American audience.
I'm not saying any cuss words at the end of the show right now.
Channel your inner Billy Butcher from The Boys and just start letting out.
Just imagine you're having a bad night at work and we're texting you about anything.
Or someone took an Applebee's survey. Something.
There are sometimes you guys just like send like 100 texts. I just take my phone and I throw it in the drawer of my desk because I'm like, I'm trying to get stuff done. And my phone's going blink, blink, blink. I was like, oh my god.
Not our fault.
You put it on silent, you psychopath. Are you one of the people that has the keys that make the noise too? So when you type it goes click, 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 look. You let it. I hate.
The thing is, I do also get texts from people at work a lot, which like breaking news stuff, and or I need you to change something in my story that's online or whatever.
Our breaking news. So,
I mean, your breaking news isn't going to get me fired or get my reporter fired or have us.
I was dropping the fraud bomb. That could get someone fired. I'm sure. I don't know.
All right. Well, I think we've said all that needs to be said today. We'll wrap things up right there. That was a pretty good chat this week, guys. And I will see you next week. Take care, guys.
Hat backwards.
See you, boys.
Adios.